I'm Tim Marriott from the UK, and I'm delighted to be on Keith Andrews' show. I think he's a great guy. What he's doing is terrific. He's doing some good in the world, and I encourage anybody else who he approaches to join in the chat that he offers. He's a great man.
For people who want to know what is the Keith Andrews Network, the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you want to be. Prove them it gets down out to something. Hashtag break the labels. Now, there's something I wanted to talk to you about off the air, but I'm going to throw it out right now. You know, right now, the Keith Andrews Network will work until November. Then we're going to take the first ever break. I don't like taking breaks. I'm a workaholic. But my next season, season 10, starts in 2022. So, my new show, what I'm working on, it's called Keith Andrews Network Presents International. And what that means, the whole season 1 will be everyone from Canada. And then season 2 will be everyone from England. And it's perfect because you're from the United Kingdom. Now I can add you to that list. And I would love to do part 2 with you from the United Kingdom. I know I can't be there in person, but we can definitely do a part 2 for the international show. I just want to do a little plug for that. But the first question I want to ask you is, you are a director and a performer and a former actor. So the first question I want to ask you is, what attracted you to begin your career as all 3 things that I just mentioned?
Well, I don't think I really had any choice. I think any advice I give to any young performer who's looking to make their way in the theatre industry now is not to sit back and wait for other people to throw you work. Don't sit back and wait for the phone to ring. You've got to go out there and make work yourself if you possibly can. And I've been blessed with opportunities to do that throughout my career in all sorts of different ways. When I left school, I went to university, followed a pretty conventional route, but did English literature. And through studying English literature, I studied a lot of drama text and learned a little bit about creative writing as well. So when I followed university with drama school, it was quite natural for me to fall into creating new work, writing work, and then into directing. I had a significant injury when I was in my last term at drama school, which meant that acting was not an option to begin with. So I got into stage management. Through stage management, I got into directing. I found myself as an assistant director or a staff director at the Royal National Theatre in London at the age of 25. But then strange thing happened. I got sucked into the world of comedy and found myself as an actor in a television sitcom called the Brittas Empire, which is I think available in the US on BritBox, which was fantastic. 7 years in a sitcom as a running character was really brilliant. But it didn't satisfy that urge, that need for that I felt to be more creative. So ultimately, I wasn't quite so happy in that role as I perhaps should have been. And by then I was married with 2 small children who were growing up very fast. I was always away from home and I was never seeing them. So I got out and found myself a job in education, and I worked as in a high school, I think you'd call it, teaching 16 to 19-year-olds English literature and drama, and that was great for a long time. Did that for a long time, but again, I had that creative urge. I wanted to write stuff, I wanted to make stuff, so I wrote stuff for other people, wrote a few bits and pieces for myself, and then in 2017 got a wonderful opportunity to adapt A Soldier's Diary about his journey through post-traumatic stress disorder and out the other side. And that took me all over the world. And since 2017, that's what I've been doing. I'm doing festival theatre all over the world, creating new work. And I've just got back from the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, which is the biggest arts festival in the world, I believe. and just got back. And that happened this year. It didn't happen last year. It happened on a small scale this year, and it was great to be back. So there you go. In a nutshell, that's what I've been doing, and that's what I'm about. And as I say, what got me into directing and writing, and because I just needed to make work happen any way that I could. And now I'm 127 years old, and I need to keep doing it. I need to keep feeding that hunger.
No, absolutely. Now, the next one I want to ask you is, with everything going on with the pandemic, I know a couple of people from England, and they say England is on lockdown. So how has the pandemic hindered your career?
Well, it hit a lot when it first hit. I was actually in Australia when it first broke in the end of March in 2020. I was in Australia at the Adelaide Festival performing there, and was about to go on tour to Melbourne and Tasmania, and it all just stopped very suddenly on the Friday. Australia were very quick to shut everything down. On the Friday, I checked with all my future dates, and I said, "Have we got a show next week?" They said, "Yeah, don't worry about it. It's all happening. Don't worry about it." By Monday, 12 o'clock, everything had gone. Everything was gone. I got a flight out. I think on the Wednesday, I managed to get a flight out back to the UK. And the next day, on the Thursday, all flights to the UK were cancelled. And very shortly after that, they closed the state borders. So it was all very, very quick in Australia. Australia, that's the way they've dealt with it. They've shut down very, very quickly. I got back to the UK, and it's almost as if there was no pandemic at all. It was all in the press and everything, but there was no sign of PPE. Not very many people wearing masks and stuff as I came through the immigration in Gatwick. But we were in lockdown, and it was very strange. I actually had a tour to the US planned. We were going to come out to Florida to do some shows in Florida in May, June, and of course that went. So all of a sudden, everything I do and everything that I'm about just disappeared. But very luckily, I mentioned that post-traumatic stress disorder piece that I do. We got a grant through lockdown to make that into a film project, into a very small scale video project, like a video diary, like a vlog. So instead of the character talking to an audience from the stage, I'm talking to an audience through a mobile phone, through a camera, and that was fantastic. That got me through. That kept me going. So I was able to keep working and keep doing stuff and writing new stuff. I wrote, I say that piece is about an old soldier with a few bruises, with a story to tell about his battles with PTSD. And I wrote a new piece with another writer called Bert Coules, who's a Sherlock Holmes expert, about John Watson, Dr. Watson. And so I was able to create that, and we created that first of all as an audio piece, because obviously we couldn't get to work in theatres. And then as things have started to open up this year, we've been able to get that one out and perform that one and move on. So I think you all of us have to cope as best we possibly can with the situation and try and find other ways of doing stuff. And I've been very fortunate through getting that grant to make that video film to be able to do that. So I count myself fortunate. I know lots of other people have really, really, really struggled, and it's been a tough time for everybody. And I just hope things come back to some kind of normal in the next 6 months to a year. I pray that for everybody. But it's been tough over here. The UK has been really badly hit, as you have, I think, in New York and the States. You've been pretty badly hit too. It's been a glum time. Yeah.
No, I agree. Now, first off, I want to say to everyone, get off your asses and get vaccinated. That's the biggest thing. The sooner everyone gets vaccinated, the more the virus can't mutate and get worse, because the more those stupid anti-vaxxers do not get it and they keep spreading it, it's going to get worse. It's going to last longer. Now they said it's going to last until 2022, and it's going to get to the point where people are just going to stop caring. They're like, if I get it, I get it. I die. It's going to get to the point where you're going to live your life, and whatever happens, happens. But the point is, if everyone gets their crap together, we can at least have a sense of normality, a normal, and then people in America, they not saying some Americans are smart or some are pretty stupid, but it's do what you need to do, get your shit together, get vaccinated. It's free. I don't know why they have to bribe you with money and anything, but you know what? You can't fix stupid, but you can numb it with a 2x4.
No. We have a similar situation here. I've been trying to encourage as many people as possible to get vaccinated, because I think that's been the government's way forward right from the outset. Rather than the lockdown in the way that Australia and New Zealand have, our way forward has been to try and build some kind of immunity through vaccination, and that does seem to be working. As I say, we do seem to be opening up again. So if that's any encouragement to people to get vaccinated, then there you have it. As I say, I've just got back from Edinburgh doing the Edinburgh Festival, and it was great. It was fantastic to see people back out there enjoying themselves and taking part in a festival. And that's only because we've had a terrific vaccination program running in this country. And we have a fantastic National Health Service here where we have free health service available to everybody. And they've been absolutely terrific in the way that they've handled this. So we're very fortunate, and lots of people have suffered terribly, but we are coming through it, and we will get out the other side.
True. It may come a point where, you have to bribe people. Like, whoever gets a vaccine gets $200. So, I mean, yeah, you don't want the vaccine, but you do need the money.
Yeah, against that, there are some people who have good reasons, I'm sure, and it does come down to a personal choice. At the end of the day, it's difficult, isn't it? Is it a personal choice? But I respect people wanting to make a personal choice. But then maybe if you're spreading the virus, then that's not just about you, is it? It's about others too. So I don't know. But I'm not qualified to talk about that. I'm qualified to talk about performing.
Right.
I'm not qualified to talk about viruses.
No, I agree with you 100%. You can throw me in the same category. But so the next question I want to ask you is, what has been your greatest achievements throughout your year? Well, throughout your years.
Throughout my years, my family, first and foremost. I think that I place that as a personal achievement. That's brilliant, and I'm now a granddad, and a very proud granddad of a 4-year-old. That's a pretty amazing personal achievement. Professionally, I think I did that. There was obviously, the obvious one would be to say that 7 seasons of a sitcom that did 13 million viewers in the UK is a pretty amazing achievement, and that would obviously stand out as a professional highlight. But I'd pick on one moment that's perhaps a little bit more poignant than that, in that this piece that I do called Shell Shock, One Soldier's Battle with PTSD. I've now performed that behind the wire in military communities as an example of resilience and recovery, because the character who wrote the diary has come out the other side. He's battled with his demons, with his flashbacks and his nightmares, and he's come through that. He's got help through an organization called Combat Stress in this country. I'm sure you have many equivalent organizations in the United States who help veterans, and not just veterans, but anybody who's been a blue lighter, first responder, anybody who's experienced stress and trauma and anxiety. It's going to be God knows, that's happening right now as a result of the pandemic that we've talked about, and there are people who experience. We don't always deal with anxiety the best way that we should. So, but the highlight for me would be I did this tour behind working with the military in Australia and then in New Zealand. And I went to a place called Papakura near Auckland in New Zealand, where they train the special forces, the Australian and New Zealand, even British special forces out there, the SAS. These are real hard guys. And they got me in there to do 2 performances there. And the second performance, there were like 160 of these guys, the roughest, toughest guys on the planet you've ever seen in your life. Tight T-shirts and the tattoos and the shaven heads, and they're all glaring at me. The colonels told them they've got to come and listen to me. And I don't want to bore you, but this was not a conventional theatre space. This was like some kind of meeting space, some big meeting space. and there was a raised area that I was to perform on. I said, that's interesting, you have that raised area. What's that normally there for? And they said, oh, that's there for the beers. And I said, oh, so it's like a social event. This is where you have beers. No, the beers where we put the coffins. I was in the room where they hold the funerals for the guys who get flown back from Afghanistan. And it's really grim. And I did this show, and one by one, they're all leaning back in their chairs, their arms folded. One by one, you could see the arms unfolding. You could see them coming forward. And at the end of that performance, there were a few tears and a lot of hugs. And two guys, just two, but two guys signed up for counselling on the spot. Now, I think that is that for me is a real highlight, because that proved to me the efficacy of theatre, of the arts, being able to offer something really positive and guide people towards help and make them recognise. What the piece does is it offers a recognition. So people look at what I do on stage and how I tell my story on stage, and they go, crikey, I do that. That's what I do. And the answer to that is, well, if that's what you're doing, if you have those flashes of anger, if you're reliant on alcohol, if you're blaming the rest of the world and not taking any responsibility for yourself, then perhaps you need to talk to somebody. And to show that, to see that working so clearly in such on the other side of the world where I am, in that environment was a massive highlight. So a slightly unusual one perhaps, but that would be a professional highlight for me, to see theatre working in that context and really benefiting people's mental health.
I agree with you 100%. The one thing I do hate, it's cowards. They always blame the big elephant in the room. It's your fault I'm not where I'm supposed to be. It's her fault. And at the end of the day, it's like, not like it's a new saying, but I like saying it anyway. If you can look at your own reflection in the mirror and you like what you see, you're doing something right. The problem begins once you start looking at your own reflection and you can't look back. You need to give yourself a different makeover.
Well, you need help. I mean, we all know that voice, that voice in our ear that sits on our shoulder. I get it during my shows. I get that voice during my shows telling me I'm rubbish. What are you doing? Get off. You're no good. I get that voice, and dealing with that isn't always easy. It's not always as easy as just looking in the mirror and going, I like what I see. I don't like what I see when I look in the mirror, because in my mind, I'm 24 years old and I've got dark hair, and I look in the mirror and I don't see that. But that voice, and what you have to do, I think, with that voice is you have to let that voice have its say. You have to go, I hear you. I know what you're about. I got that. Thank you very much. Now go away and let me get on. And I think that's really important that we do that. And I think the second thing that's really important is not to play victim. And I've done that in my life. I know that. I've got, poor me, look at me. I've been so unfortunate. This went wrong, that went wrong, that one. That doesn't help you. That's not going to move you forward. And trying to eliminate that playing the victim card is really, really important. And I know how easy it is to do because I've done it myself. But we need to. You're a shining example, sir. You are a shining example yourself, someone who makes things happen. Good on you.
No, I appreciate it. And unfortunately, I fall into that category of I did play the victim. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. I have learning disabilities. People will do things for me. But at the end of the day, if you want something, you have to prove to people you're capable of doing it. But the next question I want to ask you is, what are you working on right now?
Right now, I just got back from Edinburgh. I've been doing this solo show called Watson: The Final Problem, and and I'm working on building on that success. We got a number of 5-star reviews. We had a sellout show. It was incredible. And what it is, it's John Watson telling the Moriarty story, if people are familiar with that. And the Reichenbach Falls. Moriarty is Holmes' great nemesis, his great opposite number. And Watson tells that story in retrospect as an older man. He goes back and he tells that story about how it happened. But in doing so, he's a pretty battered man, Watson. He's lost his best mate. By 1894, when we join him in this play, his wife has died. This is the thing he has in common with my other piece. is he is a veteran of Afghanistan. He was shot twice in Afghanistan, John Watson, in the Sherlock Holmes stories. This is his background. So to see him tell his story and come to life through telling his story, and through telling his story be rejuvenated, to be reborn through telling his story, is hopefully it's a cracking good tale. Yes, this journey across Europe, pursued by the shadow that is Moriarty. At that level, it works great as a story, as a telling of a tale that engages an audience and takes them on a journey. But it's also about resilience. It's also about recovery and about how we need to talk. We need to express ourselves and tell our stories. And through doing that, we achieve catharsis. We achieve a release of our emotions through telling our stories. Bottling things up isn't good for anybody. So I want to expand that. I want to develop that and move forward with that. I have 2-3 other plays that I'm working on as well, and they'll see the light of day later in the year. But that's what I'm working on at the moment, and I'm looking for more venues. And I'm going to be coming across the pond. I'm coming for you, the United States of America. I'm going to bring Watson to you next year.
It's funny you should mention that. What's the new show I'm working on, the KeithAndrewNetwork Network International. It's like, I'm a big wrestling fan. And back 20 years ago, there was a pay-per-view called Invasion. And and then you talk about the Beatles, how the Beatles had the invasion. And I think, that sounds really cool, but I don't want people to sound like I'm like a narcissist or anything. So I was like, let's not use the word invasion. Let's just use the word international. I think that sounds
better. That's better, yeah. That's better.
But I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But the first one I want to ask you is, how can our fans and listeners get in touch with you? Are you on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, I have a production company called Smokescreen Productions, and I'm on Facebook at Smokescreen EB. This is at Smokescreen EB on Facebook. I'm on Twitter at Smokescreen Prod. I don't know why it's Prod rather than Productions. Maybe I couldn't spell Productions. I don't know. It's at Smokescreen on Prod on Twitter. And I've got a website, which is smokescreenprods.com. Again, couldn't quite get the full word productions in. So it's smokescreenprods, all one word, .com is the website if you want to have a look at what I'm doing. And we have one mantra that we say, which is, I've got a business card here. And this is what we say. I don't know, that probably reads back to front or something, but it says, think of doing something good today. And that's the mantra. That's what we try and do.
Absolutely. Now, the other question I want to ask you is, I want you to be brutally honest. You can be bloody honest. Whatever you want to say. When I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your honest first reaction? What made you say yes? And after being a guest on my show, how do you feel now, and what do you recommend it to other people?
My first thought was another interview. That's great, because I was at the time at a festival where to get interviews is really, really great. And then I looked at what you do, and I saw your campaign about disability. I mean, people talk about diversity right now, and people are very keen to talk about racial diversity and ethnicity diversity. And I think diversity has to, if we're going to talk about diversity has to be universal. We have to be diverse in everything, not just color and creed and race, but in abilities too. And we have to embrace all humankind, beyond gender, beyond race. We need to be open-minded, and I think that really attracted me to in your message to what you seem to be wanting to say, which is fantastic. And obviously there's a little that voice in my ear saying, who is this guy? What is this? What's going on? And I try to push that aside and just think of and think of the good that you're doing, and it's good to support that in a very small way. I mean, I'm a nobody really, but I'm very grateful to be here to say a few words and to respond to your interest. And I would encourage anybody, as I said earlier, my shows are all about telling stories. It's all about how to tell your story as a cathartic experience. It's a release. So if there's anybody out there with stories to tell, go and talk to Keith Andrew, because he'll listen.
Absolutely. It's funny, a lot of people are like, when I first approach them, well, what are you selling? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I ain't selling anything. I'm selling myself. But, a lot of people, especially professional wrestlers, I'm a big fan of Trish Stratus. I would love to have her on the show. She seemed very interested in, so we did hint towards doing an interview, but then, the whole pandemic happened. So she's a work in progress, even though I'm a work in progress. I hope she doesn't take offense to that one.
We all are. We all are, sir. We're all a work in progress. That's all we can ever be, is try and be better today than we were yesterday. We're all a work in progress.
No, I agree. And people are like, oh, what is he, like you said, like you're voice in the back of your head. Who is this guy? What is he really about? What's his hidden? I don't have any hidden agendas. My goal, yes, to sound like an oxymoron, I want to become famous. I want to be remembered for something. I want to be remembered, become famous, being I'm almost said be an oxymoron. I want to be famous, be remembered for something. I just want to get myself out there and show you with disabilities, look at what you're able to accomplish. And a lot of people who I interviewed were, absolutely very supportive. A lot of people are like, what is he really about? But you know what? At the end of the day, it's about showing people that labels do not dictate who you are, who you're going to be. It's approved by me to stem out to something. But with that being said, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. I want to say thank you.
The honor and privilege is entirely mine. Well, you're doing some good in the world, and that's fantastic. And so thank you.
Absolutely. And as I said off the air, but I'll say it again, Keith Andrew Network's next project is called International. I'm working on doing, if I have enough people from Canada will be season 1. If I have enough people from England will be season 1. But we will definitely do a part 2 for the Keith Andrew Network. But I have a couple questions for you off the air. For viewers, if you're watching on Facebook, hit the notification, hit the subscribe button, leave comments. If you're watching on YouTube, same exact thing. Like, subscribe, leave comments. We would love to interact with you. But wrapping up the talk show, it's a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. And until we meet again, I catch you later. Thank you and have a good night.